What is up, guys? CM back again with another video. Excuse the voice for a start. I am currently almost losing my voice because of a last surprise from a cold that I was fighting over the weekend before recording this video. So, yeah, that's fun. So, smoker's voice CM today, even though I don't smoke, and I am in fact just asthmatic and dealing with the aftermath of a cold that decided it would spring this on me. Anyways, Elden Ring video today, which, as you guys who've been watching me on Twitch know, I've been playing this game a lot since it came out. Did a whole playthrough, did a bunch of PvP. Obviously, I will still be playing World of Tanks here and there as well. Don't you guys worry, for those of you guys who like that as well. There will be more Tanks content on the way. But for now, I'm showing off possibly one of the meanest things you can do in Elden Ring PvP. Now, you might already have noticed the level at the top there, level 9. Now, this build is made using what's called the mule, or a mule. A mule is basically a save that starts at level 1 using what's called the wretch starting class, and it gives you basically as many things as you need to create a PvP class. You've got selection of all the selection of weapons, Ashes of War, so you can put different skills on weapons, different effects, and you can basically take it to whatever level you want, and use anything that you can actually get at those levels. I have got this particular one at level 9 because I am a mean boy, and this started out as me wanting to try out something that my buddy Dropout Dragon came up with, and I'll put a link to his channel in the description. In fact, I'll give you a link directly to the video where he talks about the very version of the build that he came up with. Now, I decided I wanted to take that a little further. And now, basically, almost all the stats are the same as his. There's only really one stat different, and that is endurance. So, so basically what we've got here. Now, Wretch starts with all the levels at 10, right? That is your rune level or base level 1 character. Then what I did was I leveled the vigor to 12. I leveled the endurance up by 1, so that's now 11. I didn't level the strength at all, that is still 10, but I leveled up the dexterity by 5. So, that in the end gives us what we have here. So, you might be wondering, but CM, why do we have higher stats than what you just said? Well, this is because of some of the items that I have equipped. It's all based around Radagon's Sword Seal. This is possibly one of the single strongest items in the game for any build. Doesn't matter what you're doing. This is a ridiculously good item. So you'll notice there, it says greatly raises attributes, but it also increases damage taken. Now, the way this works is it gives you an extra 5 levels to Vigor, an extra 5 levels to Endurance, an extra 5 to Strength, and an extra 5 to Dexterity in exchange for lowering your damage resistances. So on the right there, you will see defense slash damage negation. Your defense part is what is determined by your armor. And the modifier after that is dependent on resistances to different types of attack. And this is how it kind of bears across everything. Like, these kind of affect each other. This reduces them, so if I take this off, you will notice that the modifiers on the right have increased and the ones on the left have decreased. We put it back on, there we go. So, to counteract this, we then put on the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman, which massively boosts our physical damage negation, effectively enough to cancel out the effect of the source heal for reducing your resistances. Next, we have the Great Jar's Arsenal, because we want to be able to roll quickly while still having some armor and weapons equipped. And that raises your equip load so you can do that. You want to have, I think it's 70% or less of your equip load taken up. You can at least get medium load. You can see there. In fact, no, I think it's even less. I think it's 60%. So you need to keep it somewhat low. Now, after that, right, we have some options. Now, the weapons are basically what I got off of the build that Dropout Dragon's using. These are the Antspur Rapiers. You can only get one per playthrough, but obviously if you get one dropped to you by a friend, or if you use the mule, then you can absolutely have two of these. I have them both infused with cold. Now, well, these are mean. These are mean weapons, right? Now, by default, these build up a stats effect called Scarlet Rot. Now, poison is a stats effect in this game. Poison, obviously, when you build up full on an enemy, will start taking damage over time. Scarlet Rot is that, but a lot more damage per tick, and it will last longer. And the item that you need to get rid of it, at least as far as the consumable item, is much later game, or at least harder to get earlier game. And the only other way to remove it is through spells that you get later in the game as well. So you can probably imagine, early game, this is very strong. We also have Frost build-up, because Frost, what that does is it inflicts the Frostbite status on people if you can build it up to full on them. And what that will do is it will cause a little bit of damage, well, a good chunk of damage, not like massive, but like it's a little extra boost, like as like a extra bonus damage. And then on top of that, it will slow down their stamina regen, which means they can't they can't get their stamina bar, their green bar, back to full quite as quickly. So if they're trying to run away from you, which people will do, then they won't be able to sprint for as long before having to regen to full. Well, to regen, and obviously if they want to stay ahead of you, they'll want to regen to full, or at least that's what they will try to do. You, on the other hand, because if you do not have frostbite inflicted on you, you'll be able to regen your stamina faster and keep up with them, and obviously keep pressuring them. Now, there's a couple of things you can do to buff these. So, the first part, the Mushroom Crown Helmet here. Now, what this does is if you inflict poison or Scarlet Rot on another player, or even if you get it inflicted on yourself, then this will buff your damage. So we get extra damage from that if we inflict rot or poison on someone. Or, of course, we get it on ourselves. Now, we can add to this as well by using the Kindred of Rot's Exaltation Talisman. But in this case, I've decided to go for the Bull Goat Talisman to buff my Poise. Poise is actually quite a handy thing to have in PvP, because if you're doing an attack, Poise determines how easy or difficult it is for an enemy player to stagger you out of that attack. So obviously more Poise is good if you can get it. And obviously if you feel like you want the extra attack power from proccing, for getting the Rot or Poison build-up, then you can use the Kindred of Rot's Exaltation if you want. But I currently prefer to use Bull Goat's Talisman. This, however, is not the only setup that you can do. It is very mean. In addition to this, by the way, I'm using the Banished Knight's Shield, which is a very solid medium shield. 100% physical damage negation if you're blocking. And okay-ish against magic and fire and holy damage. Not so great against lightning, though. And it can block, if someone hits your shield, and, it's not going to chip away too much at your stamina. On this, I also have the Carian Retaliation skill, which still lets you parry an opponent, if I demonstrate here, like that. Now, what that also does, as you can see through the animation, is a little magic burst come up. Now, what that does is that is a spell parry. So not only can you parry physical attacks from weapons, but also spells and some projectiles from some certain weapon skills as well. Now, what that does is it creates three magic swords above your head, which then fire off at the closest target within 60 degrees of where your character is facing. So if I'm pointing this way, 60-degree cone in front of my character, roughly. I'm just saying 60 degrees because that's what it looks like to me as far as like the angles that they take. Because you can sort of aim it. Because if I'm like this, then it will. If there's someone there, like to my character's left, slightly to the left, but not all the way directly left, then it will not fire at them. If there is someone here, it will probably fire at them instead. So, very, very, very mean. Very important in PvP, in fact, if you're invading, because if people are going to spam spells, or if they're using weapons such as the Moonveil Katana, which has a skill that fires a... Not only does it have like a slash with the sword itself, but it also fires a magic projectile at you, then you can counter that with a spell parry from Karian Retaliation, which can absolutely turn fights round in your favor. Now, when you do parry the spell, or the projectile, or, well, magic-based projectile, technically, then it will use some of your focus points. Not many, it's only 8, so it's very cheap to use. In terms of, like, your focus point cost. So, very, very useful. Now, skills on my swords, I just put Chilling Mist on the other one, because it doesn't really matter. I'm not using this one for the skill. What I have as an important skill is Bloodhound Step. Now, Bloodhound Step is currently one of the meta skills in PvP. If I demonstrate why, you get very fast dashes which have invincibility frames basically the whole way through. They are very useful for building space if you need to heal. They're very useful for gaining ground on opponents that are trying to heal. It's also just really useful for getting out of sticky situations. If you've got, say, a 1 versus 2 or 1 versus 3, then if you want to try and build some space between, like, to break yourself out of two people closing in on one side and one on another, then you can do that. It's very, 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 very strong, and it to the point where it does maybe need a little bit of a nerf. But if you ever see an over-leveled summon, which you will see, because a lot of the time people can summon in friends using password matchmaking that are significantly higher level than you, and higher level than them as well. This is going to be very useful in dealing with Dragon Breath spells, which cover a massive area, that they can actually damage you in, and they're very difficult to roll out of, so this makes doing that just the easier option here. And for reference, by the way, I have killed people that are level 375-ish with this. Now, that's just going by rough calculations on how many runes that I receive as a reward for killing them. Next, the armor. Now, I'm currently using the Briar Armor and Briar Greaves. This is because if I can roll into someone, then it will do a little bit of damage. If they have very little poise, then it will stagger them as well. So, very, very handy in PvP, I find these. The damage resistances and the poise on these, nothing special. They just do the job. But for me, the biggest part is that extra little bit of damage, a little bit of stagger that can sometimes make the difference between an enemy hitting you when you're coming out of a roll and not hitting you. Sometimes even giving you the priority in terms of when you can attack, when they can attack. Gives you a slight edge there. But like I was saying, this is not the only setup you can do. I have another one for you guys. This one is also very, very mean. And here we're using the Scavenger's Blood curved swords. These are, again, known to be very, very strong for bleed buildup. And I have infused them with the blood infusion. So then we build up people's bleed bar even more, or bloodlust bar, or whichever one you want to call it. same thing. Now, blood loss, what happens is if that bar that builds up gets to full, massive damage and a little bit of stagger comes out. Now, the damage can be cancelled out by someone rolling, but they would still get staggered by it. These are very powerful for building that up, like ridiculously so. This is why they're so mean. They've got a good moveset, much like the Antspur Rapiers do. Great movesets on both. And these are just so mean for building up that blood loss. Because if you can get that extra damage, let's say someone's just healed up, but you can bleed them out very quickly, that basically resets, that basically invalidates that heal that they've just done. So very, very powerful. To augment this, we swap out the Mushroom Crown for, if I can find it, we swap it out for the White Mask. This is also a very late game item, it's difficult to get, but it's very strong. Again, we keep everything else basically the same. And you can, if you want, swap out the Bullgoat's Talisman for the bleed equivalent to the Kindred of Rot's exaltation, that being the Lord of Blood's exaltation. These two do the same thing, they increase attack power when a status effect happens, be it to yourself or an opponent nearby, and instead of rot or poison, it's for blood loss. That synergizes well with this mask, which does the same thing. This, there you go, slightly raises attack power when there is blood loss nearby. Very, very strong. And you don't even need to really change anything about the build, just the weapons, the mask. Again, I tend to run the Bullgoat's Talisman just because that extra poise, very useful to have, just so then people aren't going to stag you out of attacks all the time. It will work with most of the lighter weapons, but obviously some of the heavier weapons can still stagger you. These are the main two. This is basically just that I've been trying out. There are more. Now, you can also use spells with this level 9 build. And I'm going to demonstrate how. So we're going to take off the Bullgoat horn. We're going to throw on Marika's Soar Seal. Then, what we're going to do is we're going to throw on our choice of anything that raises intelligence or faith. So, I'm going to switch display here. So, for example, right, things like the Ruler's Mask, or the, or some of these, for example. So, for example, the Imp Head that resembles a cat. This buffs your intelligence by 2. And then what you can also do is, if you want that to go even further, we just go into my chest here. And then just go to Talismans. There is, of course, the talisman that boosts intelligence. So you can use a whole variety of spells, because this should boost you to about level 22 in intelligence, without affecting your main level. This is why it's very, very, very mean having these stats at level 9. Why these Soar Seals are very, very strong. So if you're wanting to be mean in Elden Ring PvP at low level, this is how you do it. This is what you do. Now, for locations of items, it's best to use the interactive map that Extra Life have. Now, Extra Life is a wiki, but they've had some controversy over the years, and yeah, they've done some shady stuff. But in this case, they actually do have the correct locations on an interactive map for where all of these lie. So if you need to find where they are, that's actually an okay resource for them. I don't like recommending them because of what they've done in the past, but they are currently the only real resource that's out there. So I guess we have to use them for now. Anyway, guys, that's all from me for this one, for this build rundown. Keeping it to just this for now. You will see highlights that will use this build popping up every now and then. Also, if you guys want to see more of this, you will see me using this every now and then on my Twitch channel. Links in the description if you're not already following on there. It'd be awesome to see you guys in the chat. So yeah, peace out for now, guys.